Hey folks, this is Marsilio with another market video update. I'm going to try and keep this snappy. So review, technicals, pivots, not much on sentiment valuation this time. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on fundamentals and then timing, and then I'll sum it all up. And so I'll also put some show notes so people that aren't quite ready to follow the Astro can just skip to the goods, but I will get to the goods at the end. So first, review. My forecast started out looking fantastic, calling for a heavy down day on Tuesday. Cryptos and indexes were down, although indexes not so much. And then was expecting a bounce Wednesday, Thursday, but I said maybe one of those days, but not both. But then I really was not expecting a massive ramp on Friday. Definitely missed that. And the indexes with cryptos and indexes turning bullish for the week, my bias was off. So missed that one. Then I'll talk about the timing in that section. But yeah, pesky on the rally. So technicals, especially pivots. Let's see. A lot of times major turns in markets will have several of these pivot levels in play. A great example was the last major high, which was bang on the Dow yearly pivot and S&P daily 200 moving average. I'm not we don't have to, and then Russell was on a monthly. So that's really not bad. But this recent low, there was just not much on from pivot standpoint. There was a 61 fib and some weekly levels, which are usually not enough to have big turns. But I do think the close is important to watch. Here's the monthly close. And so once the month turned green or positive for the month, S&P moving above last close, 39.55, people piled in. It's like you can avoid a down month, but once the month is positive, I think that was part of it. So interpreting this as more of a bear market squeeze than the start of something new. At least that's my preference. I will get to more reasons why later in the video. But there was pivot improvement, technical pivot improvement across indexes and cryptos. So what am I talking about? Well, last week started below all pivots, below all moving averages, a bearish stance where bad things happen. To get a recovery, Dow recovered its quarterly pivot on Friday. S&P recovered its quarterly pivot also on Friday at resistance. There are a lot of assets right at resistance. That's the half year and monthly. NASDAQ also recovered, basically kind of testing its quarterly pivot, slightly above, not really enough to be convincing. Russell, first to recover its quarterly pivot. So playing longs, it was actually worked out very well to go with that technical leader. And quick aside on timing before I forget, Gemini, we know there's a connection of Gemini to small caps. We saw that last year with North Node and Gemini, also correlating with crypto and small cap rally. In the case Mars and Gemini, and Russell was the technical leader on this bounce. Just an interesting timing note. And while we're getting at levels, VIX, back down. VIX, that was pretty clear in terms of the sixth turn. That's half year and quarterly, dropped below its monthly on Thursday and back testing its yearly right there. So these are all levels I'm going to be watching for the coming week. High yield bonds has not confirmed. Still below all pivots, although did get above its 10 moving average. This has been the better tell for the year. So that's another reason I'm viewing this with a little suspicion. Coin flirting with its monthly pivot, slightly above, not enough to be convincing. Convincing is when it launches with a look of support. It's really just right on it. And then Ethereum, the technical leader, cleared its monthly pivot on the 9th. So I did tweet out that Ethereum was looking more bullish on the 8th. I did take a 50% spot position and increased on the 9th, but I'm not going to, I'm going to see what happens in the coming week in terms of whether to hold it or not. Mercury being retrograde, I'm really expecting some chop. So I guess, let's see, I'm going to cover fundamentals first, and then I'll get more into the timing. So fundamentals, somebody asked about inflation and can I predict it? And I said, it's really tough to do, and here is why. So previous inflation was 8.5 8.5. The consensus for the coming reading on Tuesday is 8.1. So I also think inflation has probably peaked. So here I'm going to get into a little bit of astro. Why? Well, it seems to be a combination of Pluto term position, Jupiter in Pisces conjunct Neptune, and also Uranus conjunct North Node in Taurus. So Pluto term position is still in play, but the other two have passed. Jupiter's no longer in Pisces for now, and the conjunct Neptune is over. And I think the Uranus conjunct the North Node in Taurus was also part of this inflation idea, like cost of goods, cost of real world, tangible stuff increasing. So that's passed. But the thing is, the consensus is also, so if this is right, then inflation has peaked, and over the coming months, we will see lower readings. However, that's what the consensus is. So it doesn't, where the coming reading on Tuesday falls in relation to consensus, really don't have a method for figuring that out. We just have the astro of that day, and I could kind of say, well, if it's a good looking day, and the news is a positive surprise, then we're in for a big rally. Or if it's a negative day and the news is bad, then it's a big tank. Otherwise, if it's negative astro and there's good news, maybe it just doesn't rally as much as you think, or with some struggle like that. That's really the best I can do. Powell, 75 basis points is done deal. I've been looking at this. There were times where this expectation was much lower, and I was like, what is going on? It's definitely going to be 75 basis points. And sure enough, it's back to 91% chance of 75 basis points. So everyone's kind of expecting that. And if we look, I'm not going to pull up astro of Powell right now, but he's got, I don't use astro for Bitcoin natal charts. It just, it doesn't, I don't think it works at all. I don't think everything is correlated. I don't use charts of stock exchanges or anything, but in terms of people, CEOs, Jay Powell, yeah, that's in play. So Powell has transiting Saturn moving back across his sun. So I think he's taking the hard line on inflation. That's not going to back off until we really see a change in the data. So that's the fundamentals. Now on to the timing. So Mercury is now retrograde. Was not the case on Friday for session, but that was a session date. Mercury station date, kind of in a later evening, and heading into a full moon. So here we are for Sunday. In my experience, Mercury retrograde in an air sign can cause quite a lot of chop. So short-term traders, beware anytime Mercury is emphasized. And those times particularly are when Sun or Moon are in sign or term of Mercury. So we have Sun and Venus, by the way, in sign of Mercury. And anytime Moon is in term of Mercury or sign of Mercury, then there's really high potential for chop or fake outs. So that's going to be the case early for Monday. Term of Mercury here is 12 to 20. So just something to watch. And then we'll have another, Moon will be in sign of Mercury for Friday. My general take on the week, I really don't know where that inflation news comes in, but my take on the week is the later part of the week looks weaker than the early part, or maybe we just start with a fade. But there are a couple reasons I'm saying that. One is that Sun will enter term of Mars, which begins at 21 Virgo, later in the day on Tuesday. So we'll have 3 full days of Sun in term of Mars. So here is the data on that. Let's see. So this is S&P 21 to current, all markets, Sun through terms. So each one is kind of like a week. So this is mostly chronological. And this is Sun in term of Mercury. See a lot of them positive. Sometimes it goes down. Nothing's 100% in this. They do, but Sun in term of Venus, often positive. Some of the best rallies during this time. But look at Mars. Mars has turned into the bad guy. A lot of heavy selling, especially this year, has been Sun in term of Mars. So that's what we've got kicking in later in the day on Tuesday. And then also Moon sign is going to be a little bit weaker. The big pump was Moon in Aquarius. Aquarius, again, from depending on look back period, but the best sign for Bitcoin was Libra for a while. But now with that 10% move, Aquarius has taken over again. There have been many months where Aquarius has been the best sign for Bitcoin and taken over. But now heading into a relatively weaker portion of the moon signs in Aries today and tomorrow, but then Taurus and Gemini for the week and Cancer next weekend. So between term Mars and moon signs. But then the other thing that's going on is that we'll be heading towards an opposition to Neptune, 23, 24. So that will hit harder if the inflation news is more negative for markets. And also this moon kind of together with Mars there. Yeah, I know indexes surprised upside last week and my bias was off, but I prefer a negative week the coming week. I think it's going to fade, but there are all these levels in play, and I'm going to let the market dictate my positioning. Like I said, I put in 50% spot long on Ethereum. I was out of my trading shorts on Bitcoin on Tuesday because that was a plunge day. So that was a profitable trade, and then entered 50% spot long on Ethereum on Thursday when I tweeted out that my MACD was shifting. So I do try and take those signals and then use Astro for sizing. I was suspicious of it. It didn't look like the best signal, so I didn't go all in long, but that's doing fine. And then actually added, but I'm suspicious because of this Mercury retrograde. So let's see. My summary take for the week is prefer fade. There are a lot of levels in play. I mentioned all the monthly pivots between ES, NQ, and the Dow. VIX is also at its yearly pivot, and high yield bonds is still below all pivots. And Bitcoin, go back to that chart since I know I have a lot of crypto fans, is right there on it. So, I prefer that be resistance and we have that kind of trading high near that Mercury station date and the coming week fades. But if everything resolves positively, I'm not going to argue with it. I just may not take as much a position as if I was confident in the timing. And I'm not going to be the only financial astrologer to say Mercury retrograde, beware the chop, trade in smaller size, especially in the air signs. It's just seen a lot of chop. So hopefully that is helpful. Good luck, and that's it.